I just have to switch over to my cell phone now
That's
because my
okay.
laptop just, as you can see, it just shut me right out.
That's wild. Dang.
Like,
Sorry about that, man.
I am so sorry.
Oh, no
Like,
worries.
this is the first time this has ever happened to me. Right before I'm doing an interview, my
Sure.
laptop just decides to be a piece of shit.
Are you able to record on your phone? Everything okay?
Yeah, yeah,
All right, sweet.
everything's okay now. The recording light's on, so okay, I will start over. Thanks for your patience.
Of course. No problem.
So, uh, the the question I asked before the laptop wanted to boot me out is how was the move to Cali? Like, cause like I said, Cali is like a very fast paced place with a lot of actors and musicians and artists. Like, how was it for you at first when you first moved there?
It was a little tough because, coming from Saudi Arabia, it's such a different culture and environment. But my mom's American. I'd been to America. It wasn't totally alien to me. But there were times like when I was in school, I remember in social studies class, everybody was supposed to bring a newspaper article and was supposed
Okay.
to do a report on a news story that they really liked. So I remember when I was like 12 or 11, I found a newspaper that I liked, and I found an article and it was like, oh, this was during the Bush presidency. It was like,
Oh,
it said White House loses top secret file, and I was like, oh, that's so funny. How'd they do that? I'm reading the article. It's like, yeah, Bush is quoted as saying, "We just lost it. I don't know where it is." I'm like, I can't believe this happened. So I present it to my class, and everybody's laughing, and I'm like, oh, they must think it's funny. And my teacher pulls me aside after and says, Mansoor, you know that's the Onion. I'm like, what? He was like, The Onion. Do you know what The Onion is? I was like, it's a newspaper. He was like, no, it's fake. It's their jokes. It's a joke story. I was like, how was I supposed to know that? I don't know. So there were little moments like that where I kind of had to figure out the local culture, but for the most part, yeah, it was an easy enough transition.
okay, cool. And when did your passion start for this great sport of wrestling? Like, when did you first like fall in love with it?
Well, I was in love with it as a kid, and I think like most people, I fell off of it when I
Yeah.
got to a certain age. Most people they love it as a kid and they fell off, and then they either never watch it again, or at some point in their later lives they go, you know what, I'm gonna go back to this thing I liked as a kid, and they find a new way to appreciate it as more of an art form, as a sport. Like it's less so much about, oh, I want my favorite wrestler to win, and it's more about here's how I appreciate it as a performance and from a creative perspective, taking a deeper dive into what makes pro wrestling great. So yeah, I stopped watching wrestling around like 2007, 2006, and I picked it back up in like 2012. My older brother actually, he turned me on back to wrestling because he was a huge CM Punk fan. And he was like, dude, you got to watch this thing. It's called the Pipe Bomb, bro. It's like the best thing ever. I was like, oh, okay. So I was a big fan of Punk. I was a big fan of Danielson when I came
Yeah.
back. He was in a tag team with Kane called Team Hell No. That was super funny that I
Oh
loved.
my God, that was funny, that team.
Yeah, I was a fan of Ziggler and Cesaro, now Claudio, now Nick Nemeth and Claudio Castagnoli. And it's super cool because I'm able to say that at one point in my life, I was coworkers with all those guys. So
Oh, you were?
it's funny how that full circle sort of comes close when you follow your dream and you make it, and you get to meet these guys you looked up to as heroes.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, two of the guys you mentioned, Claudio and Dolph Zick, Nick, like you actually worked them and beat them, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. I had the pleasure and honor of working them, and they were very generous and kind.
Yeah, definitely. And like what wrestling school when you definitely knew that you wanted to go for it, which wrestling school did you choose, and like how did you choose them?
So I grew up near Oakland, California. So I just looked up nearest pro wrestling show because I remember Googling how do I get started doing this? It's such a
Yeah.
foreign concept, the idea of doing this thing that you're a fan of for so long. And I knew about the indies, so I looked up close. I looked up Oakland Indie Wrestling Show, and I
Okay.
found Hood Slam. And Hood Slam is a show that is in a bar in this like band like venue, so to speak. Like let's just say guys my age were not allowed at Hood Slam. I think I was like 17. I was in high school at the time. And I remember I emailed the owner of Hood Slam, Dark Sheik, and I was like, "Hey, I really, really, really want to get into wrestling. What can I do?" And she was like, "You can come help set up the ring before the show, and then you can talk to the Stoner brothers, Dustin and Scotty, and they're opening a school called Stoner U." And I
Oh
was
my
like, "Oh
god.
boy, how am I going to explain this to my mom?" Like, "Hey mom, I'm going to go join Stoner U." Um, but yeah, I went. I helped set up the ring, and it was kind of the only way that I was able to get into the show because they ID you. But me, I'm squeaky clean. Like I've never smoked, I've never drank, which is
Yeah.
so funny that I grew up in this like party environment. But Hood Slam was awesome and is awesome. I'm so lucky and happy that after being gone from WWE, I get to go back 5 years later and
Hmm.
see and wrestle and work with all these people that I love and appreciate from way back then that knew me when I was a teenager. And now that I'm an adult and I have a family, a daughter, a wife, a house here in Orlando, going back, and honestly seeing kids that are younger than me, like people who are training that were the same age I was when I started. It's totally weird and makes me feel very old.
That's funny. Like I could just see like your mom or dad's face when you're saying I'm going to a place called Stoner U, and they're
Yep.
probably,
Yeah.
wait, is this a joke? Like
Yeah.
what?
Well, my mom trusted me quite a bit, I think, because she knew how much of a stickler I was, and or rather
Yeah.
a stick in the mud. Like we'd be at family functions and people would offer me wine and I'd say no. Like
Oh
I
wow.
was straight edge, brother. I was
Yeah,
CM
you were.
Punk straight up. So she knew that for me it was like a matter of principle and that I wasn't gonna do anything crazy.
Yeah.
So if I was known for being like a party guy, then maybe it would have been a different story.
True. True. And when you first start training, like how long did it get did it take for you to get used to like all the bumps and running the ropes and the rope burns and all that stuff?
I picked it up pretty well. I think it kind of came naturally to me. The only thing I would say was a hiccup or a bump in the road was my first day of training. I actually got knocked out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, totally knocked out. Saw stars, woke up in a pool of my own blood. I did a
Wow.
drop down. We were doing a drop down leapfrog drill, and I did my drop down too late. And the guy running kneed me right in the jaw. Boom. Totally blacked out. I couldn't move my jaw. I couldn't open it. It was like a couple days before Thanksgiving, so I just had soup. Yeah, but that didn't stop me. And then my very first match ever, I got knocked out.
No,
Um,
you oh
my
no.
opponent, it was a tag team match. My opponent did a Harlem Hangover, which is like the Booker T front flip leg drop, and his ass just hit me right in the temple. Got knocked out there. Luckily, it was the finish. But those were the two times I can remember just being knocked out cold in wrestling, and that was like maybe 10 years ago. So fingers crossed, everything's been going well since then. I haven't had any major surgeries, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, that did not stop me, man. I got fucking rocked in the
Oh
beginning
my
of my
god.
career, but thankfully since then it's been pretty smooth sailing.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that the hard part is over.
Yes, yes.
The getting knocked out and the training to become a wrestler. Like I'm glad that part is done with, and now you could focus on like the next phase. You know.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's crazy. and and when growing up watching like the WWE, how like you must have been like a little bit of both. Like you were probably proud and happy, but also like scared and ner- nervous too when you find out that WWE is going to sign you. And how how did you feel? Like do you have like a whole bunch of emotions going through you?
Yeah, it was a little complex because I knew I was being signed in relationship to their deal with Saudi Arabia because of my
Mm-hmm.
Saudi heritage.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, though, I hadn't lived in Saudi Arabia for about like 10 years at that point, maybe more. So I was very disconnected from the culture. I hadn't been in a long time. I visited very infrequently to see my family over there. But
Yeah.
My Arabic was pretty bad. I could read and write, but conversationally I was just brutal. I remember like I cut a promo one time after my battle royal win,
Yeah.
and I said an expression that was like, "I'm gonna make you all proud," but like the literal translation of it was, "I'm going to whiten your faces." And I remember afterwards seeing a bunch of memes from Saudis being like, Mansoor's like rubbing toothpaste on our faces and shit. Like, just there were parts where I had little slip ups and snafus that kind of made people go, "Oh, I don't think he's like authentically Saudi." So it was tough because I have a lot of faith in myself as a talent. I know that I'm a very good wrestler
Yeah.
and a great talker, promo. I'm a creative guy. I'm in good shape. But as a representative for an entire country, I don't really think that I was fit for that job. You know what I mean? That was a tremendous amount of pressure. So I'm kind of, I was very thankful to have that role
Yeah.
because it got me some amazing moments. The biggest battle royal ever. I got to wrestle Claudio Castagnoli in an amazing match. I got to wrestle in front of my family, my father, who didn't really understand wrestling until he saw me do it live in our home country. So that's super cool. And every time I go back there, there's still people who are like, "Oh, it's Mansoor!" Oh, so yeah, it's awesome. But at the same time, it kind of was difficult not to be judged on my talent alone, but also in relationship with a multi-billion-dollar deal that was way above my pay grade and my comprehension ability.
Yeah, definitely. And I was reading like how guys like Sam, Sami Zayn and Mustafa Ali inspired you a lot, and he was also like your your work dad too, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Mustafa Ali.
Yeah, I mean, Sammy was a big inspiration. I remember Sammy was the first wrestler I ever saw who had Arabic on his tights. I
Yeah,
was a huge fan of him in NXT. Actually, one of my favorite matches of all time is him and Pac, Adrian Neville at the time,
yeah,
for the NXT Championship. I don't remember what takeover that was, but I remember like that match and Daniel Bryan versus John Cena at SummerSlam 2013. Those were the two matches that convinced me to become a wrestler. So to be able to
okay,
meet Sammy was amazing. Super cool, very smart guy. Mustafa sort of came into WWE later in my life, but at the same time, here was this guy, a very proud and open Muslim,
yeah.
who was representing, our people very positively. And then to become as close with him as like we text each other every day and we talk with each other on the phone every week.
Oh, that's
Because
awesome.
we're just super close. Like he's the best. And he helps me out a ton. He looks out for me all the time. So I
Mhm.
can't say enough nice things about Mustafa.
Oh wow, okay, okay. And when you made your first debut on Raw, like you didn't find out that you were going to be on Raw until like the actual day of Raw, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I had been doing every week. This was during the pandemic, so we were going to the Thunderdome, which was in Tampa.
Yes, yes.
So I drive 2 hours from Orlando every week to be on main event because I guess they were taking a look at me, seeing if I
Hmm.
was ready. And I remember being told, "Listen, we need you to bulk up. We need you to gain some size." So I was like, oh God, I was like eating a shit ton. I was drinking a ton of protein drinks. And every week I'd go to Raw and I'd have a main event match with like Akira Tozawa or Drew
Yeah.
Gulak, who are awesome workers and great guys. And I loved working them. And then finally one day I get there and they say, all right, time to be on Raw. And I was so excited. I got to work Sheamus, who was so, so cool. And also just very passionate about wrestling. Like to be like Sheamus, where you've been on television for God, so I mean, since 2000 and like 10,
Yeah.
2009,
Yeah.
over 10 years of being on TV and still being as passionate and driven as he is truly amazing. Like he was like, just drill me, just hit me as hard as you can. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, do it. I was like, okay. And you kind of have to because he's really snug too. He's giving
Yeah.
you the 10 beats and you're like, oh my God, like you got to give it back to him or else like you're not getting your pound of flesh. And yeah, yeah, he's intense, man. He's awesome. So yeah, that was a great experience for me. I loved my time in WWE mostly because I got to learn a lot. And
Exactly.
it can be creatively frustrating and the worst part is when you're just not working because
Hmm.
on the independents I get to work as much or as little as I want. I'm working every weekend until May. I'm booked
Oh
up,
my
but
god,
but
great.
that's by choice. You know what I mean? Like if I ever wanted to take a week off, go on an island cruise with my family, I can just do that. In WWE, you have to be on call. Like even though
Yeah,
you're
I
not
know.
booked, you're getting flown to Raw and SmackDown to do nothing, just in case they
Yeah.
need you. So it can be pretty frustrating, but at the same time, like the times you do get to work, especially on house shows, you learn a tremendous amount of things that I'm using now in my indie run, in my independent wrestling career that I think makes me an even better wrestler than I knew I was capable of being.
Oh wow. It's funny you just mentioned the cruise. Like I actually just came back from a wrestling and rock cruise that's ran by Jericho.
Oh, you were on that? How was that?
Oh my god, so much fun.
That
Like
seems cool. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the guy has everything on that boat. Like he has
Really?
live wrestling. Like they have a wrestling ring in the middle of the shit
Yeah, I
going
heard about
going
that.
into the water.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, is it weird to wrestle on there with the? Yeah, I've never even considered how weird it might be. You might get motion sick or seasick while you're
Yeah,
wrestling.
yeah, right. Like I don't know how the guys do because sometimes the boat rocks and sometimes it's like smooth. And then you have a stage with the bands and his band Fozzy goes on
Right.
stage and they have like a whole bunch of others and it's actually a really fun time.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I'm probably not the kind of environment I need to bring my 1-year-old daughter, but maybe. Well, I think we'll stick with Disney for now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And you're still allowed to use your name for the local circuits, right? Like you know your wrestling shows every weekend. Like you're you can still use your name like the WWE name.
Yeah, well, it's my real name, you know.
Well, yeah,
So
yeah, of course, yeah.
I don't I mean, they said it was cool. Like I was like, "Hey, is it all right if I continue being Mansoor?" And they were like, "Well, it is your name, right?" And I was like, "Yeah."
It is
And
your name, yeah.
they were like, "Then sure, yeah." I was like, "Okay, cool." I was kind of worried that it was going to be a problem because I was like, "I don't
Yeah,
know what to call myself. It's my shoot name. Like, what do
I
I,
know, right?
you know what I mean?" So, yeah, thankfully, no, I get to continue being Mansoor.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. And was was there any funny stories that happened while you teamed up with Mace and you were the male models of the WWE?
I mean, I could give you 1,000. Here's one. I guess there was a lot of pressure on people to make sure that the Maximum Male Models was a successful act. Until of course Vince retired the first time out of many. Because I guess Vince really wanted it to work. So what they said was, "Hey, we're gonna put you on the house show loops." We are like, "Great, awesome," and they were like, "Okay, so you're gonna be traveling to this city, this city, this city," and we were like, "Oh, who are we wrestling?" And they were like, "What do you mean?" We were like, "Who are we gonna wrestle?" They were like, "Nobody. You're not wrestling." We were like, "What are we doing then?" They were like, "You're gonna model."
Oh
So
my
we
god.
went to these house shows when we did the SummerSlam Beach collection, where we wore like speedos and crop tops and pool floaties. And LA Knight, who was Max Dupree at the time, would stand in the
Yeah.
ring and just say, "And look at Marseille's glutes and Mansoir's rippling tricep meat." And the crowd would just be
Yeah, yeah,
boo.
yeah, yeah.
And we felt so bad because there was no payoff. We just modeled and left. Nobody came out to kick our ass. Nobody came out to give us our comeuppance. We just
Right?
modeled and left. And I remember I've never seen a crowd that angry because there was no conclusion to this story. Like they just saw three half naked guys come out wearing a swimsuit in the middle of a wrestling show. I can't, like, I would be pissed. Yeah, being the male model thing was a very surreal time for sure.
Oh yeah, but it was great too because
Thank you.
I mean that was a really good way to get heat with the crowd.
For sure. I mean, I just wish there was a payoff. Like, I wish somebody came out and kicked our ass
No, exactly. Yeah.
because then the crowd would have popped. Because we did that on house shows later where we'd come out and we'd do a 5-minute pose where we'd say for 5 minutes, we're just going to stand still. And they'd put a timer on the Tron and it would just count down. And the crowds would fucking lose their minds. They'd be booing
I
so hard.
bet.
And then the moment that Alpha Academy's music hit, the place came unglued because like bam,
Right.
that was it. That was how we got our heat, and that was how they got their shine. So yeah, I honestly I love the gimmick. That's why we're still doing it on the indies.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
there's so many funny things you can do. Like we're going to Poland. I'm flying out to Poland tomorrow with Mace to do the male model gimmick in Poland in a tag team title match, and we're so
oh,
excited to every time we go to a new audience to do
yeah.
all of our like favorite shticks and our favorite spots because people always love it. So we're really excited.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what was it hard for you at first? I mean, I know like working for a place as big as the WWE, it has its ups, but it also has its downs with like a lot of backstage stuff. So like, was it was it hard for you at all when you got released from them and like knowing that you had to start over, sort of like you know try to find like where your next shows were coming and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely disappointing. But less so because oh, I want to be in WWE. Like it was harder for me because I really felt like we did everything we possibly could have done to
Yeah.
prove that we were assets to the company. Like we were pitching stuff every week. We were sending them vignettes because once they killed the maximum male model gimmick and they said, "Hey, you're not doing this anymore." We were like, "Fuck!" Like we worked so hard on this and we committed so much of ourselves when everybody was saying, "Oh, this is going to kill your career. It's a horrible gimmick. You should just quit or you should just tell them no." And we committed and we did it to the best of our ability. And it kind of felt bad that those people were kind of proven right. But in a way, I like that we're continuing the legacy by still doing it and like doing these matches where people love it because it's like, well, no, like it wasn't necessarily the gimmick that was bad. It was just that we didn't get the opportunity to show how good it could be. So now we're
Exactly.
on the indie circuit, like it's freeing in a sense, because when you get the creative freedom to do as you please and show just how talented and how much any creative idea can be, how successful it can be, rather, it's very vindicating. So, going out and grinding and being on that hustle, it's great. I personally love it because I feel like it's such a contrast to WWE, where for
Yeah.
the last 4 months before I got released, I was sitting at home doing nothing
Oh
because
wow.
the maximum men model thing got killed. They said, You're not going to come to TV anymore. You're going to sit at home until we can figure out a new gimmick for you." And that's why Mason and I were filming vignettes in limos and filming these like cult Scientology like vignettes, just throwing anything at the wall saying, what sticks? Because we can do anything. And then when we got released, that was 3 more months of us sitting at home. So we were stir crazy. So now being able to go out and wrestle and perform every single weekend, making it for ourselves is totally freeing. And we're having a tremendous amount of fun. And we're selling merch like crazy,
Oh yeah,
which
I'm
is
sure.
which is awesome, but also annoying because I have to like my wife just made a
You have to keep
spreadsheet for us
ordering.
because we lost track of like what we're selling because we got to split it. But yeah, it's fun because we work for ourselves, and I would say the best part of it is that I get to meet a lot of people I never would have met otherwise. Like we went
True.
to the TNA taping a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and not only did we get to see guys we haven't seen in years, we got to meet a bunch of really cool people that we've never met before, as well as all these indies. Like we just met Effie and Alley Catch when
Oh
we worked
yeah.
with them, and they're just tremendous, tremendous people. We're starting a YouTube series where we play video games, kind of like Up Up Down Down, and we asked actually Xavier Woods for his permission. Like we were like, "Can we please do Up Up Down Down on the indies?" And he was like, "Yeah, go ahead." So we're interviewing and playing games with all these interesting people from all over the country and soon the world. And yeah, we're just excited to see what's next.
Oh wow. And like from being someone who knows how it is to be on television mostly every week, like you're saying now, you're having a lot of fun because you don't have to go by the rules and yeah, like would you ever consider like doing that again, like the TV thing with like AEW or TNA?
Yeah, of course. I love TV wrestling because I primarily consider myself a storyteller. It's always what I love
Yeah,
the most about wrestling is that it's a weekly story that
it is.
never ends. Well, it'll never end. And it,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if a character retires or stops wrestling or it'll always continue. There will always be the show. And
yeah.
that's always what I appreciate about wrestling is that you could look at like for example, when I started wrestling, Brock Lesnar just started and I was able to watch Brock Lesnar go from a rookie to WWE champion as a fan. When I first started watching wrestling, John Cena first started. Like John Cena came out and he did the thing with the Undertaker, where he was like, or with Kurt Angle, where he was like ruthless aggression. And to
Yeah,
to know that that guy, that John Cena, would ultimately become the face of the company in my lifetime, in my career, or rather my fandom of watching wrestling, and I got to see that
mhm.
progression from a week to week standpoint is super fascinating to me. There's nothing like it in the world. Like there's no other show that goes that long.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Where you get to actually watch people grow in and out of their lives as a character and as a person. So I think it's totally interesting and totally unique. And I like the idea of being in a position where I get to tell a story for people and reward people who pay attention on a week to week standpoint. That being said, I also love just going to shows and wrestling for people there live. You know,
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
so I want to make sure that I'm in a position where I'm gonna work. That's what I learned from my time in WWE is that I didn't like being caught with my pants down and being home for a long time. It just didn't
True.
feel good. I just want to work. I don't like being paid to do nothing. You know, I know that's kind of the dream for a lot of people,
Yeah,
but
right.
and maybe it will be for me in my 40s and 50s. You know, when I'm done with destroying my body for people's
Yeah.
amusements. But as of right now, I just want to work. So wherever I end up working, I just want to work.
Okay. And you also like dabbled a little bit with act with acting, and like you voiced a couple of the WWE games, Cole Quinn, and you did some like voice work, and I think I read something where you worked with Shia LaBeouf too, and
So I actually trained to be an actor. That's what I went to college for. I
okay.
studied acting because I thought it would make me better at wrestling, and I think it has like tremendously helped me. Having experience with learning lines and direction, and I apply my philosophy about acting and theater and film. I always apply it to wrestling because it's almost one to one the same thing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
100%. Like antagonist, protagonist, three act structures, all these things that are basic and essential to storytelling apply to all forms of storytelling and performance
yeah.
art. So the reason I actually love wrestling is because I did a lot of theater as a kid, but I
Oh,
always
okay.
felt like something was missing, and it's that physical storytelling aspect of wrestling that I love so much. The fact that you're connecting and you're just like you and your opponent are actually partners and you go as far as you're comfortable going in terms of inflicting violence. And that's what
Yeah.
I love is that it's just two guys who are willing to hurt each other for people's amusements to whatever extent they choose to go. You know what I mean? That's what I love. It's the suplexing and the body slams and just the drama that you'll never be able to see because on a stage, and of course this is for a good reason. You don't want people getting hurt, but every
Yeah,
time
of
you throw a
course.
punch in a play, you have to go, like it's very. I don't want to call it phony, but it always took me out a little bit. And
Yeah,
pro
yeah, yeah.
wrestling is the closest thing we will ever get to like gladiatorial combat. You know what I mean? In the
Exactly,
modern
exactly.
era. So that's what I enjoy about it.
Alright. Uh, you think you would ever wanna do, like, a TV series or, like, a movie or anything, or
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah?
I mean, I'm not willing to go Hollywood yet, but I enjoy acting. I just didn't want it to be the only thing I did. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I wanted
exactly.
to wrestle. My goal and my dream was always to wrestle every week. So if that opportunity ever came, I love doing 2K. Like doing the voiceover work and the motion capture was awesome, especially because that was before I got signed. So that was
Mm.
my first time in a WWE ring, was standing in a warehouse in the 2K headquarters and cutting those promos as Cole Quinn as a character, with the ping pong balls all over my body, you know, like the motion capture. So that felt super cool.
Nice. And when you're not wrestling, like, what do you like doing during your free time?
Well, ever since I had a kid, it's just been
That's
raising the kid. I mean, my
yeah.
wife does way more work than me. She works way harder than me. I still sleep in. Thank God she lets me do that. But you know, I personally I'm a huge fan of video games. Like ever since I was a kid, I played video games all the time, all day, every day.
Nice.
And recently I think like the time that I've found to game has been mostly traveling, like on planes. Like I got a 16-hour flight coming up and I got my Steam Deck, which is just a godsend. I mean, what a like an incredible machine because I'm a huge PC gamer.
Oh,
But
okay.
PC gaming is not really something you can do when you have a baby crawling around. You know what I mean? You can't
True.
stay in one place. So I
True.
remember when my baby was born, I'd hold her for naps and she'd just nap on my chest while I played video games. Like you find time whenever you can, you know. I really love reading graphic novels. Like I got a ton in my bookshelf downstairs. I'm sort of like I have an Arrested Development, which is a show I really like too.
That was
And
a good show.
it's a great show in terms of like all the things I liked as a kid, I still like.
Yeah.
I just have to enjoy them responsibly now that I'm providing for a family.
Oh, yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
But honestly, man, for the most part, in my off time when I'm not like with my wife and child, I'm just thinking about wrestling. Like I think about wrestling all the fucking time. Like you should see on my phone, I have notes apps of spots and promos and matches and characters and like it's like all I think about. I lay at night before I go to sleep thinking about
Yeah.
matches I'm going to have.
All
So
right.
it's totally all consuming.
Well, well, yeah, because you always want your stuff to look good and look sharp all the time. So of course you're
It's funny because like there's sort of a philosophy clash with modern wrestling because the old school way to wrestle was that you would call it in the ring,
yeah.
and you wouldn't pre-choreograph and you'd cut promos off the cuff. I'm totally the opposite. I don't, you know, and a lot of people lose respect for me when I say that, but and maybe it's because I come from acting, so where everything is scripted and everything
Mhm.
is staged a certain way. But I like knowing what I'm gonna do. I just do and I'll fill in the blanks in between 100%. Like I love doing that. But from a beat to beat to beat kind of standpoint, I just
Yeah.
like knowing what to do. I like talking
Yeah.
about it. You know what I mean? And as of right now, I have a good memory. We'll see how it is after hitting my head too many times. I might have to change my style, but
Yeah.
that's my personal philosophy. I just like planning things out. I'm very much in the camp of like Randy Savage and DDP.
Yeah, like I was when you said that, that's the first person I started to think of was Macho Man, because any wrestler you ask when they worked the program with Macho Man, they said he would like fax them over like a 20-page script to read before the
Yeah,
match.
unheard of, but now it's kind of the norm. And I think it's probably because he was a perfectionist and I'm a
Yeah.
perfectionist. Like Mace is somebody who can have a match and then forget the match. I can't. I'll have the match. I'll think about it for days. I'll watch it back 100 times. I'll nitpick every little thing that I feel like I didn't do perfectly. It's just the way
Okay.
I am. It's just my personality.
Okay, good. Good. Nah, that's really good because at least if you didn't like the way something looked, like you could go and
It's
change
good
it.
and bad because it'll never be up to my standard ever. It'll never. It doesn't matter how good the match will be. I'll always find something I didn't like.
Okay. And and what about songs? Like, what kind of music is on your playlist?
Oh, I have absolutely no preference for any genre. Like I can read you some of the shit that I listen to, and it's completely and totally varied. Um, I have I have some video game music on there, like
Oh,
from Metal Gear
sweet.
Solid and Metal Gear Rising.
Yes.
I got David Bowie. I got Prodigy. I like electronic music. I got the Bangles. I got Finger Eleven. I got Jake One. I got Public Enemy. I got Lady Gaga. I got Phil Collins. I got Faith No More. I love Faith No More. I got Portishead, Radiohead, the two heads, of
Nice.
course, the two greatest headbands. Azealia Banks, ASAP Rocky, Gwen Stefani. Yeah, it's just all kinds of shit. Like
Yeah, it
the
definitely is.
Smiths, Linkin Park, Grimes, Massive Attack, Depeche Mode. Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to this shit. I just whenever I hear a song that I like it, I look up the album, I download the album, and that's all I
Uh-huh.
do, you know.
So, what would be your go-to karaoke song if you were going to sing with some
Huh.
friends?
That's a great question. I found this out with my wife the other day. We played a game where I actually asked her first. I said, "Gun to your head, you have to sing a song, the lyrics perfectly. If you
Yeah.
fuck anything up, bang, you're dead." She was like, "Oh, I got like four." And we went through all the songs on my playlist. I can't do a single one correctly. I just, for whatever reason, I can't memorize lyrics well. I don't know what it is, but I don't know a single song, all the words. I just don't. So maybe a video, maybe Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Oh, all
I
right.
know that
Okay.
song. I know that song pretty well, but I don't think I'd
Nice.
find it at any karaoke bar.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't.
No.
Like you would have to pick a song that everybody knows
I
so
know,
that
like it has
they
to be
could
living
they
on a
could sing
prayer or
along
some
with.
shit, but I just don't know. I don't know. I don't pay attention to the words.
Because that's what I do if I doing karaoke. I always pick a song that everyone knows because my voice is horrible,
Yeah.
and I'll start the song and then they all start singing it, and
Yeah.
then I just stay quiet and they think I'm singing, but I'm
Your
really
lips,
not.
your Milli Vanilli.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always ask guests this when I had them on because I'm a big horror guy. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure you saw my Chucky stuff before my
Yeah,
laptop
super
went
cool. Yeah.
crazy. So, are there any horror films that you like watching?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super into horror. I'm trying to think. I probably my favorite is Alien. I really love
Sweet,
Alien.
sweet.
Fucking amazing movie.
Oh
And
my gosh.
Aliens is great too, but it's not as scary. Like Alien, the
Hmm.
first one, how there's just one monster and it's in the ship and you just like it's put over so strongly as a threat. Um, is super super cool. Trying to think what else I like. Friday the 13th is awesome. Mostly the first movie, but also Dream Warriors is really cool.
Yes.
I just find the concept cool. Like there's rules and it makes sense. And everybody tries to stay awake because in your sleep, that's when you're fucking in danger. I like horror movies that have rules, right?
Yeah.
I'll say it right now. I'm sorry, did I say Friday the 13th? I meant Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, yeah,
Because
Freddy.
I was about to say I fucking hate Friday the 13th. There's no fucking like consistency in any of the shit. Who Jason? Okay, so first of all, Jason is that woman's son who is in the lake, and then he
Yes.
comes out, and then what the fuck happens? He goes to hell. He comes back,
Goes
and
to hell.
he can put himself in people's bodies,
Yeah.
and then he's a fucking robot, and he's cryogenically like I'm sorry, it's too much. It's too fucking much. Like I can't deal with that. And
Yeah, that is true. He did go to hell and then went to space and
it
became
goes
a
way off the
robot.
fucking rails. He goes to New York, but like
Yeah,
most of the
Jason takes
scenes,
Manhattan.
it
Yeah.
doesn't even fucking look like it's in New York. Like I'm pretty sure it was shot in Toronto because there's like one scene in Times Square, and then the rest of the movie doesn't fucking look like New York.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely
So
right.
I'm trying to think of other horror movies I'm into. The Shining, of course, is fucking awesome. That's a
Yes, yes.
classic. I'm trying to think of movies that really scared the shit out of me. Hereditary scared the shit out of me.
That was crazy.
Oh
Like
my
for
god, dude.
modern films,
For
like
fuck's
yeah, like
sake. I
that
mean,
was
it
crazy.
put a real pit in my gut. Like it just
Yes.
when her head gets knocked clean off, I couldn't. I watched that with my wife and I was like, this shit's fucking me up right now. Yeah, those A24 movies really, holy
I
shit.
know. I
It's so
know.
different from those old horror movies that you could laugh at, you know? Like
Yes.
they're almost like, oh, there's no fucking smiling in Hereditary. That's for fucking sure. Absolutely not.
Did you see that creepy movie Smile where that horror movie where they're
Oh, I
like
saw the trailer and I was like, I'm not watching. Holy shit. Like, like that look is just
that
too
was
much for me.
I went to the movie theater to see that and that freaked me out. Like I'm a horror guy. Like
Yeah.
I could watch any kind of horror film and that movie freaked me out a little bit just because like they're like smiling at you, giving you like a creepy
I know it's like,
smile.
and it's so the concept is so lame, but it actually is scary as shit. Like,
It
you know,
is,
it
yeah.
actually is. I saw in the trailer when the woman's fucking head goes,
Oh
you
my
know?
god, yes, that was crazy.
Yeah,
That was
yeah. I'm trying to think of like stuff that I watched as a kid that I shouldn't have watched that really scared me. Like I vaguely remember like Leprechaun in the Hood or some shit. Like
oh my god, yes, yes, that was
I don't know if I
insane.
watched it all, but or I remember watching Bride of Chucky when I was way too young to watch Bride of Chucky.
Actually was like one of the ones that I liked the best out of all
It's
of the
fun.
films.
I like when a horror series realizes that they've made too many movies and they're like,
Yeah,
we're gonna stop taking ourselves seriously. That's why Jason in Space or Jason X, it's actually one of the better Friday the 13th movies. Because
yeah,
they just say, fuck it, we're just gonna say whatever, we'll do
exactly.
who gives a shit. We're gonna have kung fu robot women and they're gonna fight Jason. Whatever.
and and then just like you said with Chucky, like they give a doll a bride. So
Yeah, yeah, great. I mean, even dolls need love, right? I mean, it gets
exactly.
lonely with your plastic parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Uh, Jennifer Tilly killed it though. Like
Oh,
she,
she's awesome. Yeah,
oh my
she's
god,
awesome.
she killed it as Tiffany. Tiffany is the
Absolutely,
bride. Yeah.
absolutely. That's all the ones that came to my head right now. I'd have more for you, but I hit my head a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do to stay in shape? Like you're in amazing shape,
Oh,
and
thank you so much.
you're you're wrestling every weekend. You're busy being a dad, and like what do you do for like to stay in shape to find time?
Thank God I have a gym in my garage. Otherwise, I'd be
Oh, okay.
fucked. I am lucky enough to before my kid was born, squat rack, bench press, dumbbells. We got bands. I don't have a lot of time to actually drive 20 minutes to the gym. So when I put the kid down, I walk my dogs, I work out, try to do it for an hour to 2 hours, and mostly the hard part is actually my diet because I'm naturally very skinny.
Oh,
And like I got signed, I was 170 pounds, and now I'm
oh wow.
205. And that's purely because I have to eat like a shit ton of protein and carbs, by the way. No six pack for me ever. Like the only way I can look like a wrestler is if I just commit to never being lean. I have to be all chest and shoulders and
Okay.
arms. So I'm just eating like, okay, so the godsend to me, there's this bagel. It's called Dave's Killer Bread. And
Oh yeah, I've had
it's
that.
like 40 grams of carbs, 20 grams of protein, like 2 grams of fat. And all I do is every like 2 hours, I drink a protein shake and I eat like two bagels. And then I'll have chicken and salmon and fucking any kind of meat and rice that I can have. Uh because I don't eat vegetables. I'm super picky.
Oh really?
I don't eat salad. I don't eat any yeah, I'm just like I eat like a child. I eat like I want chicken tenders and cheeseburgers, but obviously I can't do that because I have to have a low fat, high protein, high
Oh yeah,
carb diet. And that's the only way I can upkeep my weight. So,
yeah.
yeah, kind of a weird diet, but that's me. I just eat a lot and I try to work out as much as I can. Now that I'm traveling though, it's been less, so I'm probably going to start to look like shit, but thank you for
Oh
the
no.
compliment. Because when I was home for 7 months, I had no fucking excuse not to work out every day.
Yeah,
Now
true.
I'm traveling, Thursday, Friday through Sunday.
Wow.
So if I
Yeah,
can try to
that's
get a
amazing.
workout in the hotel, I'll try, but it's tough.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And you mentioned you like read graphic novels and all that. Like, do you have a favorite superhero and villain that you like?
Oh yeah, so I started reading like I'm not a comic guy
Yeah,
because it's too small. I need the whole fucking story. All right? It's the complete opposite of wrestling, right? In wrestling, I love following week to week. In
yeah,
comics, no, I want to read a whole run in one sitting. I can't do this fucking weekly bullshit because I don't want to have to go to the fucking store or download an app to read week to week. No. All right? I'm buying Grant Morrison's Batman Omnibus and I'm reading all his fucking stories in one sitting.
all right.
I'm buying Watchmen. I'm reading it all in one sitting. Superman, All-Star Superman, great
Yeah.
fucking run. The shorts like Batman the Killing Joke, Arkham
Mhm.
Asylum. So I got into comics because of Batman Arkham Asylum, the video game.
Video game,
I had
yeah,
never
that's
cared at
awesome.
all. Like I watched the movies, I liked the Spider-Man movies and the Spider-Man game, but I had no desire to read comics until I played Arkham Asylum, and I
Yeah,
was so fascinated
yeah,
and drawn in by the world and the characters that video game introduced to me. I was like, okay, I got to read this shit because I need to know about fucking Killer Croc. I need to know about Calendar Man and
yep.
fucking all these weird Scarecrow. I loved Scarecrow, dude. Loved Scarecrow. So I read The Long Halloween, which is a run. I don't remember who wrote it, but that fucking story. I mean, year one, Batman Year One, The Dark Knight
Hmm.
Returns, like
Hmm.
all fucking great stories. And that's a medium too, a unique medium of storytelling that I really enjoy. So yeah, and I like having it physical. I like having it in my hand. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
A- And traveling with wrestling like from WWE to what you're doing now, is there any like city or any place you haven't seen that you want to see?
I want to go to Japan. I mean, that's the
Oh,
place,
okay,
man.
so
Like
you never went there.
Mace and I, both Mace and I, we really want to go to Japan. We had the pleasure and the honor of wrestling in Paris, London, Scotland,
Yeah.
Ireland.
Yeah.
We've been a lot of places, but I mean, we want to go to Mexico and we want to go to Japan. Like those are the wrestling capitals of the world that we
Oh yeah,
haven't been to
definitely.
yet. So here's hoping.
There you go. And
I mean, we're
is
going
there,
to Poland tomorrow, so
I know that's
we're
so
hitting them off.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's so awesome. I love it. And is there anything coming up for you that you want to plug? Like, I know
sure.
you're going to Poland, and like anything else besides that?
Yeah, I mean, Poland's in this week. I don't know if you have any Polish listeners.
I don't know.
But Mason and I stream every week. We're streaming next Monday on January 5th. We're actually going to have Swerve Strickland on with us. If you
Oh,
want to check
sweet.
that out, that's on twitch.tv/ Great Black Otaku. That's OTAKU. And what other dates am I allowed to announce? I'm going to be in Texas. I'm going to be at Pro Wrestling Revolver on February 17th. That is going to be, I think, in Grand Prairie, Texas. Let me just check Brennan's schedule because he has all of our announced dates. Aha, here we are. We're gonna be in Glendive, Montana. I don't know if you know any
Wow.
people in Glendive, Montana.
I don't.
March 16th, and then on March 17th, we're wrestling in Los Angeles at
Okay.
Pandemonium Pro, and before that, we're gonna be at the Wrestling Guy store for a signing. March 29th, we're in Indianapolis, Indiana for the Squared Circle Expo and for Black Label Pro. And those are the shows that I'm allowed to announce, but we got plenty
Oh,
more coming up in between.
that's all right. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
And last thing is, where can fans follow you at?
I'm on all socials at Suave Mansoor. That's SUAVE MANSOOR. I have a link tree up on my Instagram and Twitter where you can check out merchandise, cameo, all that good stuff.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was really nice meeting you. Thank
A
you.
pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So have a great night and great rest of the week, buddy.
You too. Thanks, man.
Thank you.